You'll never look at a simple lampshade quite the same way again. I'm steam ironing some burlap material on both sides, then placing a simple lampshade on top, wide side down, then cutting the burlap into a square shape. To prepare the inside of the lampshade, I'm pulling out their inner ring. A faux evergreen tree seedling is being placed inside the lampshade. I'm now gathering up the burlap to wrap the lampshade, then holding it in place using twine. Some heavy cotton rope is being tied around the shade next to add extra charm. And my faux Christmas tree now looks like a live evergreen tree. The lampshade really beefed up the base, creating the illusion of a root ball inside the burlap sack. You could also use the lampshade as a simple tree color if you leave off the burlap. Here's an idea that really elevates a table setting. I'm stripping the covers off of 2 lampshades that have pretty shapes. Cutting the fabric with an X-Acto knife, then tearing the fabric off is quite simple to do. Now that both lampshade frames are bare, I'm reaching for 2 antique cutting boards. The lampshade cages are being positioned wide side down, then the cutting boards are being placed on top. A plate of food and treats are being placed on each riser to create a one-of-a-kind serving table fit for any special occasion. Let's illuminate your evenings with a high-end twist. The stained glass style lampshade is being set wide side up on the table. This idea would work well with either a puck light or candle. However, if you use a candle, just ensure the base is very sturdy. I'm placing the puck light inside the lampshade, then turning the light to face more forward. And my rustic shelf now has a super pretty ambiance during those dark, moody evenings. This idea can serve as an upscale nightlight as well. Let's get pretty well practical next. 2 tall skinny lampshades and a couple of full plants are being placed inside a long skinny crate in an alternating fashion. I'm now filling both lampshades up with office supplies. And my new office caddy is not only super handy, it looks beautiful while I get my work done too. The crate also makes my writing materials portable whenever the need arises. Let's plant a very unique plant. A large faux olive plant is being placed in the middle of an upside-down plain lampshade. Smaller faux plants and flowers are being added inside to fill up the gaps. I'm now treating the plain lampshade like a blank canvas by clipping something interesting to the outside of the lampshade for display. And my new artfully inspired lampshade planter looks full and abundant with plants, brightening up any corner you wish. I hope this inspires you to try a few lampshades in new, unique ways for your home.
I completely transformed this thrifted lampshade into the most beautiful home decor. I removed the shade so it was just the wire frame. I used a utility knife to scrape off the glue, then I sanded the wire frame with sandpaper and steel wool. I wiped clean and then spray painted it matte black. While it was drying, I sanded a wood round, wiped it clean, and sealed it with gloss spray Varathane. I applied 5 coats and then sprayed the last coat with satin Varathane. I pre-drilled and screwed the wire frame and wood round together, and now I have stunning plant stands. I hope this inspired you to save a lampshade from the landfill and create your own plant stand.
You know all those lonely donated lampshades you see at thrift stores? Well, pick up a matching pair. And while you're at it, pick up a thrifted belt with a buckle that is 1 to 2 inches wide. Run a bead of clear glue around the perimeter, take the other lampshade and flip it upside down. Place it on top of the other lampshade and hold it for a few minutes until the glue dries. Take some jute twine and tie the inner hardware of the 2 lamps together. Give the connected shades a little shake to make sure they are securely connected. Now take the belt and buckle it around the skinny center of the 2 lampshades. If the belt is too large, simply use a poker or a small screwdriver and create your own hole. Add a little glue to the loose end of the belt and secure it to the rest of the belt. Next, find a thin wood circle disc that is 1 inch or 2 larger than the diameter of the largest opening of a lampshade. If you have a lipped edge on your wood disc, paint the edge with some acrylic paint. Do you have some wallpaper scraps? Now is the time to use them. And peel and stick wallpaper is perfect for this project. Measure the diameter of the wood disc and then measure a piece of wallpaper that is just a little longer than that measurement. Peel off the backing of the wallpaper and apply to the center of the disc. Smooth out any bubbles with your hand or a straight edge. Trim the excess wallpaper that is hanging over the edge of the disc with some scissors. You now have the center covered, but you need to fill in the edges. Take the left side of a piece of wallpaper and splice it into the right empty space on the disc. And vice versa. Take the right side of that same piece of wallpaper and splice it into the left empty space. Most wallpapers are designed so the edges can be easily matched up. Match up the seams, press onto the disc, and smooth out any wrinkles with your hand. Then trim off any excess wallpaper with scissors. Last, place the wallpaper disc on the top of the lampshade base to create a brand new accent table.
You'll want to be on the lookout for lampshades at the local thrift store. I selected all different sized lampshades, graduating from small to large. Now I'm removing each lampshade cover to expose the frames. Now I'm stacking all the lampshade frames on top of each other from largest to smallest to decide the order in which I'll be placing them. Selecting some lightweight chain with bendable links, I'm opening the beginning of the chain to create a hooked end using needle nose pliers. I'm hooking the chain to the top inner shade, then gauging the length of the chain needed to hook to the second bottom frame. Once determining the length, I'm opening up the other end of the chain to link the shades together. When I ran out of chain, I checked the local hardware store for more, but since they no longer carried the same chain, I decided to use hog hooks, which are open-ended chain links. Closed chains are definitely easier to work with. Since I'm going for an industrial look, I'm leaving the shades and chains in their natural metal tones, then choosing Christmas ornaments that chime in with my desired look. To my surprise, I am now using the much needed and super handy hog hooks to hang the ornaments, which did the job perfectly thanks to their short size. And you are left with the cutest lampshade Christmas tree that couldn't be easier to make. I love how the various neutral ornament tones tie in with the metal lampshades, or you could hang any colors you'll be decorating with this holiday season.
Grab a lampshade, new, old, or thrifted, for a unique addition to your patio table. Start by removing all of the fabric from the lampshade. If there's trim, you can save it to reuse. You'll need a hot glue gun and your choice of mesh fabric for the cover. We used burlap mesh here, but you can use tulle, netting, or screen. Attach the mesh by applying hot glue to the ribs of the lampshade, as well as the top and bottom rings. Cut a separate piece of mesh for the top and attach it with more hot glue. For a finished look, reattach the reserved trim from the lampshade and cut any exposed or loose threads. If you don't have any reserved trim, you can use your choice of ribbon. If the holes of the mesh are too large to keep pests away, take a piece of screen and attach it to the underside of the lampshade, gluing along the ribs and rings. For the handle, you can use anything you like, an old drawer knob, more ribbon, or large beads. Your food cover is now ready to use.
To start this project, I want to remove the fabric from all of the lampshades I've collected. I'm going to do this to all the lampshades I want to use for this project. I also want to sand down this pole. I found this at the dollar store and it was just a broom handle. To make sure the lampshades will slide over the pole, I need to remove the center rings from each one of them. In order to secure the pole, I've picked up a bucket of pre-mixed concrete. I'm just going to slip the concrete into a larger bucket for support and then push the pole right down into the center of the bucket of concrete. While I love the shapes of the frames, I want to paint them and give them a more natural look. Now that the concrete is dry, I'm going to place the entire bucket and pole into a beautiful old crock that I have. To space out the lampshades and keep them in place, I'm going to put the lampshade over the pole and then mark where I'd like it to hang. I'm going to use that mark to add some hot glue to the back of the pole, and then I'm just going to wrap this twine around about 4 or 5 times and then keep it in place with some more hot glue. To finish off the tree, I'm going to add some little copper lights. I really love how thin the wire is, and it makes it super easy to wrap around the lampshades and the pole. I'm just looping them in and out around the lampshades, and that'll be enough to keep it in place. I absolutely love how pretty this lampshade tree turned out. It fits perfectly into a small space and looks magical lit up. I hope this has inspired you to upcycle some lampshades into a unique Christmas tree as well.
Next time you're at the thrift store, pick yourself up a couple of lampshades. So to begin my project, I just took apart the lampshade. This one has this little decorative knob on the top. I am going to save that because I'm going to put it back on here as soon as I get all the fabric off of my lampshade. So I just began with some scissors, cutting apart the fabric and ripping it off. It was glued very well, so it took me a little bit to get all the fabric off, but you can also use a seam ripper as well to rip apart the seams, and then the fabric pulls a little bit nicer. Once you get the lampshade down just to the bare wire, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this little knob back on. Now I just used a nut and a washer that I had stored away in my toolbox that fit, and I'm just going to put the nut at the bottom and tighten this back on, but you could also glue it as well. Then I'm going to go ahead here with a hot glue gun and I'm going to begin down one part of the lampshade, and I'm just going to attach this faux moss onto the wired parts. So I'm just working in sections here, adding on the moss little bit by bit. It is very messy, this part, and the glue can be a little bit hot, but I found a little hack to do is just to take a big ball of the moss and kind of wrap it around the wire and grab the wire nice and tight. The moss will protect your hands from the hot glue, and then you can just pull away any moss that wasn't stuck with the hot glue. I did also put plastic gloves on just to try to protect my hands a little bit. Once I covered both my lampshades with the moss, I came in with these solar fairy lights and wrapped them all around my lampshade. So just starting at the bottom and then working my way up, making sure that I covered every portion of the lampshade for the most amount of light. I'm using solar fairy lights like I mentioned here. You could use battery operated ones as well, but if you are going to hang these outside, I do suggest solar lights just so that the batteries don't get wrecked by the rain. I do like that the moss provides that like camouflage woodland look during the daytime, but at night, once the solar lights have charged, they light up and they provide just a cool atmosphere for my backyard. How great would these be for an outdoor wedding? I came across these two disheveled lampshades and knew that they just weren't destined for the trash, and I ripped off all the outside parts of the lampshade, the fabric and the trim. They were so old, it came off really easily. I barely even needed to use scissors. And then once I had them completely tore apart, I took the two lampshades and I stacked them on top of each other. And then to secure them, I used some just little white zip ties and I went around the lampshades. When I picked it up, the lampshades didn't come apart at all. And then I used some scissors and just cut off the excess of the zip tie. Next, I took this rub and buff in the shade European Gold, and using just a paint cloth, I just rubbed it on. And this stuff is so easy to use. You literally just do what it says, you rub it, and then you buff it. Then I came in with some twine and I tied it around the bottom, and then working the twine up and around, I went around the outside of the lampshade several times, making sure to bring the twine back through so that I didn't have that extra piece of twine in the middle. It was just on the outside of the lampshade. So I went around several times until I got the desired thickness that I wanted for my twine and tied it back off again at the bottom. Then I fanned out the twine like so, and then I repeated this process intermittently around the lampshade. I did this 4 more times until I had a total of 5 stretches of the twine, just to give this a little boho look. Now you can do anything you want with this. You could leave it bare, or you could do the twine or any other kind of material that you want. I was just going for more of a boho earthy feel, and I think this helped me achieve that. When I was finished, I placed it on my porch and put some decorative candles in the middle, and what I'm left with is a stunning, unique lantern for my front porch. I think this project turned out so well, and I rescued something that was destined for the landfill. You can feel free to get creative with this one, add some fairy lights even in the middle, or you can also add in some flameless candles as well if you want to light it up at night. Thank you so much for tuning into Home Talk, and we'll see you on another video.